This episode of Capes and Lunatics is brought to you by Tweaked Audio. Get awesome headphones, go to tweakedaudio.com and use the coupon code Southgate to get 30% off, free shipping, and a lifetime warranty. Or you can get there through the link on our website, southgatemediagroup.com.
Avast me hearties, and welcome once again to Full Stream Ahead. I'm your Captain Charlie, the Professor Esser, and with me as always is my skinny rich friend and first mate.
It's Mozz.
Hey Mozz, welcome back again to Full Stream Ahead. Tonight's episode we're discussing The Boys, Season 2, Episode 4. Milk, Huey, and Annie go on a road trip to find liberty. Frenchie has relationship problems, and Homelander continues to unravel. Our director for this week is Frederick E.O. Toy, as Fred Toy. Our writers this week are Michael Saltzman, Eric Kripke, who gets that developed by credit. 2 more credits go to, I'm guessing, good old Garth Ennis and Derek Robertson. Michael Saltzman is our writer. Eric is our developer. Garth Ennis and Derek Robertson just cashing the checks for the work they already did. All right.
That's the way to do it.
Man, this episode opens. Man, you know, if they want to make a hate Frenchie, I think they make a hate Frenchie this episode. What do you think, Mozz?
Wait, why hate Frenchie?
Okay. Aside from the fact that he's doing his own little snorting thing, which, hey, look, right. I'm not judging that per se, but then he goes and tries to connect with freaking Kimiko and then goes for the kiss. And it's like, dude, you're stoned. Don't go in for the kiss.
Right.
And if you're too stoned to know, don't go in for the kiss when you're stoned. Don't get that stoned and talk to the lady you had a thing for, you know? It's like, I mean, granted, yeah, I'm being very judgmental, and I'm not going to say that I'm above reproach in these kind of things, but I'm just saying, it's like, oh, worst move ever, Frenchie.
Right, but I mean, it doesn't make me hate the guy. That makes me feel for him. I feel bad. I don't hate him. I don't think it was an unforgivable thing to do. You know,
I kind of. Here's what I'm gonna say. I'm not gonna say it's an unforgivable thing to do because he did take no for an answer.
Right.
But I think that basically it became a super low bar to set for him that he cleared, and here's what I'm gonna say. They set it up to do a callback later, so that when it comes back later, we go, oh. We get something like that also in this episode with Black Noir. But that's going to come back later, too. But in this episode, no, I mean, okay, I won't say I hate Frenchie because of that, but it's like, it made me lose a lot of respect for Frenchie. That Frenchie's going on a bender. And it's sort of like, why are you going on a bender, Frenchie? We've got stuff to do.
Well, why do we want a thief and a bad guy to be a role model? He's a flawed person. That's why he's in the situation that he's in. You know, like expecting him to not be that. And he's been an addict. He's fought through it. He's got his, you know, things, but he tries to do the best he can for most often. And, you know, it's like he's imperfect and he's hurting too. And I don't know. I could see his intentions being maybe I can help her. I don't know, give her something else to think about. I don't know. It's like, you can see enough sort of... It doesn't seem like
I can't see it. I'm just saying I can see the problems with it, you know?
Well, sure. But you know, everything they're doing is fraught with problems.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think this is any time where you get to be perfect or ideal.
Fair enough.
People make mistakes, and, you know, it was a mistake made in the direction of caring for somebody. And you can't fault him too much for that. I mean, maybe I'm biased because I don't know. Frenchie's always been one of my favorite characters.
No,
so maybe I can't see him do anything wrong.
I don't want to hate Frenchie, and I didn't hate him in the moment because I kind of saw it as kind of a stupid drunken accident.
Yeah.
And, as a drunk myself, I like to forgive drunken accidents. For what it's worth, I kind of buy into the idea of, now I'm blanking on his name, the guy who wrote Naked Lunch, when he accidentally shot his wife.
Oh, Jesus.
And said, it was this drunken accident, Him and his friends.
Well, comparing that to that, I think is a bit much, no?
Well, yeah, but it's this idea that where he says, I was drunk and I had a gun in my hand, and me and my wife, we did this all the time, where I'd do the William Tell bit, where I'd shoot the glass off her head, and I just screwed it up because I was drunk, because that's really not something you should do when you're drunk. And, so I am forgiving of the idea. But at the same time, I'm also sitting here going, yeah, but, there's certain points where you should keep, no. And like I said, I don't hate Frenchie because of this. And Frenchie definitely redeems himself as the story goes. And he recognizes his own failure in this moment. But I think it sort of calls back to episode 3, where it's like he wants to connect with Kimiko, but he's not connecting for the right reason. Like, he wants to talk to the brother so he can teach her the language, but he doesn't present himself in a way that's like, I want to learn the language just so I can talk to her because I respect her as a person. It's like, you want to talk to my sister so you can bang her, And so I get the feeling that there's this quality to Frenchie where it is
you
still...
think that's all he wants from Kimiko?
I mean, in the long term, no. And what we know about Frenchie is he is a romantic.
Right.
He holds these emotional bonds strongly, but, I can't ever get over the fact that Casanova...
I mean, like, come on.
Well, no, there's this thing Casanova would say, which is Casanova said, he fell in love with every woman he ever laid with because he was such a romantic. So it doesn't matter that he was just using them for sex. In his heart, in that moment, there was never a lie that passed his lips. He loved them for all time, and he still loves them, but, he loves a lot of people.
And that's how you see Frenchie?
I can see Frenchie being that.
Interesting. Okay.
I can, because not for nothing, I mean, let's call it shelter after an entrenching tool. Frenchie is written as a characterization. He is written to be Pepe Le Pew.
Okay. That's not how I see it, but...
Well, I mean, an adult version of Pepe Le Pew, and a nuanced take on Pepe Le Pew, to be certain. But at the same time, they call him Frenchie for a reason. They play with the trope and the idea of him in that way that I think is meant to be, that we're meant to see it. I think he does get that evolution as a character. But I think in this moment, I think this is the moment where we see him at his worst. And to be fair, we're probably meant to see him at his worst. That here he is. They're locked at the basement. They are all wanted now because everybody's got pictures of all of them. It's not just going to be Butcher's face in the made-for-TV movie. It's going to be all of them now. And they've all got to deal with the fallout from it. And so that moment does stick with me a bit. I will be honest. We also got, and actually, I forgot, we didn't mention this at the end of last episode, is there's a scene between Mallory and Butcher at the end, where Mallory basically tells Butcher where his wife is.
Right.
And
even though they weren't able to get her the package.
Yeah, even though he wasn't able to do it, she's like, I'm not gonna be that person anymore.
Yeah.
You did what I asked you to do. It went south, and I kind of put you into a position where there was a no-win situation for you. So yeah, now I'm going to say, you know what? Let's try and fix it. I'm going to give you what I said I would give you. I'm going to actually make good on my promise. And that's what he does. That's what she does. And now Butcher knows where his wife is, and he's going to go break her out. And this is where I say this is the relationship connection episode, because we get relationship connections with Butcher.
Yes.
We get it with the Deep. We get it because that's our initial framing device of all the women that are being given to the Deep to choose, although by the end we find out that they already made their choice.
Right.
And they chose poorly. I felt so bad for the Deep in that moment too, to where you get the woman that's like, oh, that's a woman that actually might make him happy because she is tying her happiness to him in that sense. But they make him go with the actual serial killer woman.
Right. It's sort of interesting because it's almost like they're giving him plausible deniability. Like, hey, man, anything that we're asking you to do, you chose to do this. You had a perfect out. That girl was perfect for you. But what did you do? You didn't choose the perfect girl for you. You chose to be a part of this plan. So own up to it and do what we're telling you to do.
Yeah, it's I feel
diabolical.
Yeah, the Deep is definitely getting, it's a problem for the Deep that I think he is a character that has a lot of potential, but that is always going to be kind of left at the side. And I think that's, although, again, like I said, I really want the Deep to be the one that kills Homelander next season.
Yeah. I think the Deep's problem really is, I think it was perfectly explored in his conversation with his gills. He doesn't love himself. He feels embarrassed about himself. And until he takes ownership and pride in himself, he will always be this way. He will always be doing things out of the wrong reasons, for the wrong motivations, to impress people, to make them think he's something he's not because he doesn't think he's worthy. But until he decides to shine for who he is, he's never going to be able to even, have the shot at reaching heroic heights that he wants to.
Oh, man. You know what? So I've been talking about this idea of about the Deep being the making his own Atlantis.
Mm-hmm.
What if there actually is, because here's this idea. So every time they were experimenting on kids, they probably got kids with gills who couldn't breathe air.
Oh.
And eventually Vought just dumped them all into the ocean.
Huh.
And what if eventually the Deep, or maybe, this is the brilliance, okay? They dumped them into the Great Lakes. And so in the Great Lakes, there's just this little army of feral kids who, when the Deep comes, when he actually goes into Lake Michigan because he's stuck in Sandusky, he meets them all and he finds his kingdom. And they're like, we were all just dropped there. This is where we've been. We were once on land and then we were thrown into the water, and this is where we've always lived. And then the Deep just sort of like, my children. And he's got his little army of all these other gill babies that can't breathe air but can be in the ocean, and they go protect the Great Lakes or whatever they're going to do. And it could be interesting. That could be an interesting idea of all of the reject heroes. Because that's the thing. We know that it doesn't work that well with adults, but we've never thought about, maybe there are children that it doesn't work with, because we do see that, and that's one of the things. I get the feeling that there are children where they don't know what the power is right away, because when the Deep talks about his powers, he says, it started when I was 9, which means maybe they knew he had gills, but they didn't know what his power was, so they sent him back with his parents.
And much like Homelander's kid doesn't know that he has powers.
Mm-hmm.
Because they've just been
it's
possible that kids might not find until they hit puberty or something.
Well, Homelander's son is interesting because he clearly has the powers, but he doesn't want to use them because he wasn't raised to use them. And it's an interesting thing. It's one of these things where if Homelander were a better parent, which he's not, he might be able to actually, because I'm watching that scene with him on the roof. I don't know if that was this episode or last. No, it's this episode.
Yeah.
With his son on the roof, and I'm just thinking, you need to step off the roof. You need to show him that you can walk on air, and you need to hold his hand while he does this. But instead he does that. Just throw the kid in the water, let him sink or swim, and it's like, dude, that's how your kid dies if they don't breathe water or they don't figure out how to swim.
Yeah.
You got to be ready to jump in after them. You can't just throw them in and hope they can fly. You can't kick the baby bird out of the nest. It's like you actually have to be a parent. But what that does give us is it gives us the real evidence that, when Homelander is threatening the mom and the kid pushes Homelander down, which also shows, interestingly enough, that the kid is actually more powerful than Homelander.
You think so?
Yeah.
How so?
Because he pushed Homelander down.
Well, I mean, I'm sure Homelander wasn't trying to resist, and he was sort of saying, "Ooh, let's see what the kid is capable of." Kind of.
No, I don't think it was. Oh, let's see what the kid is capable of. I think it knocked him down. I think that it was enough force as a child to push Homelander back.
Interesting.
Because I think that's why he gets up, because he realizes that was impressive. That was and then when his son's eyes flash, he's like, yeah, I know this. I know this kid is my kid. I know this kid has the power.
Right.
He's mad that he's been told to go away because his kid doesn't love him.
Yeah.
But he's also proud that his kid has these powers. Which of course leads to what happens when he goes back. But
yeah.
Oh God, Stormfront is awful, just objectively awful.
And they erase all doubt altogether this episode with that story. We find out who her real identity is this episode.
Oh yeah. Well, we don't know her real identity yet.
Yeah, well, I mean, we have a sneaking suspicion of who she might be because we hear the story from that old lady about how Stormfront came and killed her brother and got a sick, twisted sense of pleasure because she got to kill a black man.
Yeah, which is also though there's an interesting thing in that. Because when they do that flashback, Stormfront or Liberty is very clearly drunk. And they because you can hear her slurring her words. If you listen to me right now, you'll hear me slurring my words. And you will recognize it. Oh, yeah, that's that same thing that Charlie does. Yes, and that while she's in that moment, and we also see that she's on the Budweiser ads. How they got Budweiser to agree to that, I don't know. I think they said, yeah, we want to use your character. You've got the character, his name is Liberty, and she's endorsing you, and her colors are red, white, and blue, Budweiser. Do you mind? And like, well, that sounds great. Although, to be fair, arguably, that's what happened in the real world, is that, there's a character named Liberty, and they said, hey, they want to have an endorsement deal with you, Budweiser. Do you want the character Liberty as the lady who likes to drink a beer?
Or we can go to what's another Coors. We can go to Coors. You want Liberty to be the Coors superhero?
Or Miller.
Or Miller.
Miller was the other one.
Gotcha.
Miller were the two national brands, There were a lot of local brands like Ballantine's and Stroh's and all this stuff, but the big national brands were Miller and Budweiser, I believe. And feel free to write us and correct us on our beer lore and history here. But anyway, so yes, no, because that was a whole thing with Coors only being able to be sold on the west of the Mississippi.
Huh.
If you recall, that's the plot of Smokey and the Bandit, was that they wanted Coors beer, but you couldn't purchase Coors beer west of Mississippi.
Is that right?
That was right, because there were all sorts of rules about how you could transport alcohol, especially if there was a state that did not allow alcohol to be transported into it.
That's funny.
Yeah, well, there's still weird laws about alcohol right now in this country, so it's like all these people wanting all these wanting pot legalized. Yeah, you'll get 50 different states with 50 different rules, but
hey, it's a start, man. I'm never angry at a start. I'm never angry at a good start.
Exactly, and that is a truth of that. As it stands right now, so we do realize that Stormfront may be this killer from the 50s. Now, in truth, you don't necessarily know that, because it could also be that this is Stormfront's granddaughter or daughter or something like that. Because for what it's worth, we already know that superheroes can pass on their abilities. So I think that's meant to be something that we're supposed to contemplate here. As it stands, before we will eventually get our final reveal of who Stormfront is, in this moment, that is a possibility, that it's not so much that she is the Nazi as she's just descendant of Nazis or just Klan members, or just general racists. Because let's be honest, you didn't have to be a Nazi or in the Klan to be a racist in the 1950s.
Right.
It's like that was kind of the default, and you kind of had to move out of. You had to be actively anti-racist to not be racist in the 50s. So, history. It's a mess. Anyway,
Right.
But in this we do get Butcher and his wife reconnecting. We get but this is the episode where they're supposed to meet at the bridge, and then she decides she's not going to go, right? Right, because Butcher's not going to accept her son, and she knows this, that Butcher has this anti-superhero idea that he wants his wife back, but he doesn't want what his wife comes with. He's not willing to accept that his wife had a kid. He's not willing to accept that his wife's kid has superpowers. Yeah. And that is the problem. It's like no. It's like, for whatever else, this is my son. I'm not leaving him behind, and I know you will never accept him. He will never be part of your world. So there's no reason for me to even try to make him part of it. Yeah. That's rough. It is rough, but she's not wrong. Not at all. That's the thing. It's like, she's not wrong. Butcher is not going to accept this, and Butcher's another one where see, I think Butcher actually does believe he's the good guy, even though he's in a lot of ways really not. Well, and for what it's worth, this is a grim, dark world. Yeah. As they say, grim, dark is a messed up world. But you know what? The reality is, and this is sort of this idea that we were talking about last episode about how the story continues. And what we kind of get in this episode as well is the idea that it's going to take time. You don't slay the beast. You might get a little victory, and the beast will, clear itself up and will come back, but maybe it'll be a little weaker. And we'll fight again. And then I think we'll always be fighting. I think that's the idea, that the fight is never over. You just do your part, and hopefully the next generation does their part. The fight is never over, because it's not like we're going to vanquish the darkness. The darkness is ever present. It's within us, and we have to manage ourselves as much as we manage society as a broader sense. So that fighting of the darkness will never be vanquished. It will always be a fight. There will always be a front to the battle. And that is absolutely true. But at the same time, here's this thing. There's a story I like to tell about the concept of institutional racism. That a lot of people talk about institutional racism and think it just means there's a lot of racists in the world. And while that is a true aspect of institutionalized racism, what I think a lot of people don't understand is that historically racism was a box on a form you checked, where literally there was a box on your loan application that you would mark to say that you were a colored applicant.
Mm.
And if you mark that, if the person taking your application marked that box, it was an immediate, it was an immediate disqualification for the loan. And as I was telling my wife today, that, in the past, if you would open up the want ads, it would be a page that said men wanted and a page that said women wanted. And if you were a woman, you could apply for any of the women jobs, but not the men jobs. That this is what is the institutionalization of things, that there was actually a system in place that said, here are the things you're allowed to do and here's the things you're not allowed to do. That doesn't dismiss the racism and racist policies that exist today. Those are all just as real and just as detrimental. But it is understanding that there is a difference in the way the world is now set up and the battles we have to fight now and the battles that we had to fight then. And I think as it plays out, we do get these little victories. It doesn't mean the beast is defeated.
Right.
But those victories are real victories. And I think that is where the failure of trying to tell a story in a grimdark universe actually fails. Because everyone knows, well, yeah, but tomorrow's another day. The story's going to continue.
Right.
And yes, you can say it'll always come back to being dark, but nobody really believes that because we have objective observation that things do get better.
I'm not saying that things will eventually pendulum back to darkness. I'm saying that the fight to keep the darkness at bay is always going to be there.
Oh,
You will never have a situation where you don't have to fight to keep the darkness at bay. It will always be there, and you'll always have to fight.
Yeah, and I think
otherwise it will take over because the darkness will never stop fighting.
Well, exactly, and I think that is sort of the thing that Huey kind of has to explain to Starlight in this. And again, going back to that religiosity of Starlight and this idea of waiting for the Deus Ex Machina, because I think Starlight in her own way thought of that once we reveal Vought to be the liars and frauds they are, that's the Deus Ex Machina. That is when it all becomes revealed and everyone goes, oh, gasp, and the world changes forever. But Huey, he knows, because Huey, he's a working class guy, and he knows every day is just another day to the next episode.
Right.
That's the thing is, we as humans, we live our lives episode to episode. We don't have a grand arc that we're working towards, unlike heroes. We live our lives as people working towards an end. And then when we get to the end, we're like, oh, here's the end. But, then after we get to the end, then we still have to wake up tomorrow and deal with what is the world now that we have an end. Yeah. And heroes are stuck in this idea that I have to be the hero. My arc has to be grander. And the human arc, and if you're human like Huey, you say no. It doesn't have to be grander. It just has to be another day. We've won one battle. We've revealed one truth. And there's a million other truths we're going to have to reveal. We got to explain to people how this lady is not the person she presents herself as. We've got to move everybody forward another step. There's a whole nother, it's like we only got, yes, we passed go. We collected $200. Now we're on Baltic Avenue. We have a long way to go to get back to Pass and Go and collecting $200 again. That's the truth of it, and that's why Monopoly is the best game ever created. By the way, I mean just say Monopoly, because it's around in that circle, and it's just do we get one more thing? Do we get our next result? Do we find our solution, or do we just as is? Or
do we stop being friends with people for a couple of weeks?
Well, yeah. I mean,
honestly, that is more often the eventual outcome of Monopoly.
Monopoly! Oh man, you can't play a board game and then still be friends afterwards. You probably shouldn't have played a board game. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it helps people illuminate whether or not they need to be in these friendships. I guess let's put it that way.
Fair cop.
Monopoly can get pretty intense. I love the game, but Monopoly can get pretty intense.
You know, the trick of Monopoly is you have to be willing. You have to remember that the money's not real. That's the trick to Monopoly. It's like, just remember, the money's not real. It's just a game. And so I always like to put on a persona. I always like to try to be the rich Texan when I'm playing my well, I'm just gonna lay out my $500 for that luxury tax. Ho ho ho! You know, putting my money into because I always play. You gotta play. And I have to say this: you have to play with free parking being the lottery. I find anyone who says that free parking is not the lottery is like, you know what, sir? You can take your limited view of the universe and just leave my place.
Well, see, there you go. That's you ending a friendship through Monopoly.
Exactly. Well, you know, it's just free parking. And yes, granted, according to the rules, free parking is not supposed to be the lottery. You don't put 500 in the middle to start. You don't get 500 when you land the free parking. Free parking is just supposed to be a space where nothing happens.
Yeah, you should just be grateful that you're not, like, being attacked.
Exactly. That is literally what it's meant to be, which goes back to the actual communistic origins of Monopoly, where it was supposed to be like, the capitalistic system is grinding you down. But immediately people said, but maybe I could game it. Maybe I could figure out a way to win it, you know? And that is when free parking becomes the lottery. Right. Because the entire idea behind the lottery is, you know what? I don't got $1 million. I wasn't born with $1 million. I didn't start my game with $1,500 the way you do in Monopoly. Not everybody starts on an even keel. I started my game with $500. And you know what? I may not make it all the way on the ball, but if I hit that spot, and if everyone has a chance to hit that spot, and that spot gives me that leg up, maybe that's worth my time in trouble.
Or it strings, the person along for a little bit longer because you think, hey, I just gave my last $15 to this guy to stay at his hotel for right quick, but hopefully if I land on that, I might still have a chance, and you still continue.
Well, yeah, but of course, the thing about Monopoly is everyone gets to buy. That's why Monopoly. That's the thing. That was the flaw of the anti-capitalist vibe of Monopoly from the start. Is that it imagined everyone starting out equal, which of course is not correct.
Right.
It imagined everyone would have the chance to purchase property, which is not correct. And then imagines people trying to. It's really, which arguably is appropriate for the person who actually created it, which was a white middle class lady, who was a white middle class suffragette. I don't know if she was a suffragette. The women might have already had the vote by that point in time, but I don't think they did actually. Which is this idea of this imagined world where there is equality, but that if you had equality, even then capitalism would bite you in the butt. But for people that actually did not grow up with equality, it's like, no, capitalism is the one thing that might even the playing field for people.
Right.
So people see capitalism as like, yeah, no, I get what you're saying, that it's an unfair system. Systems are always unfair. I was never going to be the son of the Duke, I'm never going to be, Baron freaking Trump. I'm never going to have that given to me. But you know what? I might just get enough to not have to be a serf. I might actually someday be in a position where I can tell Baron Trump to go F himself in capitalism because, you know what? You want to speak to the manager, Baron Trump? Guess what? I am the manager. It's my, it's a little podunk restaurant, but you know what? I've decided you are a bad customer, and I'm going to tell you to leave my fiefdom. And that is the dream of capitalism, is to have that little square of land where you get to own Baltic Avenue. And when someone comes on Baltic Avenue, doesn't matter how much money they have, they still got to pay you. They got to pay you. And if you were lucky enough, you got like 8 hotels on Baltic Avenue, guess what, buddy? Pay up. Pay up, because you're on Baltic Avenue now, and I have gentrified it. And your Park Place with no hotels, I actually get more on Baltic Avenue with all my hotels than you ever had. And that's the thing. And coming back to the boys, that's where this all gets into this complexity, because when we talk about season 3 and the idea that now Compound V as a thing is out there, and as an example, if I'm Baron Trump, or if I'm that person's kid as a baby, they say that it works best when you're a baby. I want my kid to have superpowers. And now it becomes this thing, was how much you're going to pay to give your kid superpowers. And is Vought going to take the risk to inject this rich person's kid with superpowers when that person can then sue Vought when their kid turns into freaking the Deep? You know, it becomes a much more interesting complexity of the universe that we're going to be in. So, yeah. But one other thing that happens in this episode is we do get Homelander and Stormfront finally connecting. Oh, well, actually, first we get Doppelganger. So I want to talk about my Doppelganger theory.
Oh, yeah, man.
Because Homelander's with Doppelganger again. Doppelganger is pretending to be Madeline, and then he can't hold it, and that really freaks Homelander out because, you know, he's not gay, man. You know, heterosexual superhero, as you need to be. And I think if Doppelganger were a better looking person when he wasn't transforming, it might not have been as problematic. But, you know, for Doppelganger's perspective, it's like, look, I don't have to maintain my base form.
Right.
Somewhat, but we're gonna get to that. We're gonna get to that in a minute in my fan theory. Tristan was asking if Doppelganger was like Mystique. Doppelganger is like Mystique, but here's the thing, and this is the thing. So, Doppelganger turns back, gets the whole thing. Doppelganger says he can be anyone you want. Doppelganger turns into Homelander because Doppelganger's thinking, "Oh, you're a narcissist. All you want to do is say I can do anything I want." And and pleasure yourself. And he's trying to do that, and then there's this scene where Homelander puts his hand around Doppelganger's neck, and we see this thing where there's a connection, and Doppelganger nods. And then there's this whole thing that goes on where, you know, it's not gay or with yourself, yada, yada, and then Homelander snaps Doppelganger's neck. And then we see Doppelganger on the ground. And here's the thing. Here is the thing that all you nerds have been waiting for. Doppelganger still looks like Homelander.
Wait!
And everyone knows whenever a shapeshifter turns back, they turn back to their base form.
Right, even he was saying he was having trouble holding it together because it hurts. And he's like, turn back right now. So he obviously can't hold that. It requires effort and tension of muscles or whatever he's using to hold that shape. So if there is no tension, if there is no effort, his shape should revert. And the fact that it doesn't means that he's not dead.
Exactly.
Ooh, that's so good. He
was like Gecko in the previous episode, saying, that costs extra, but sure. We'll do
yeah. Yeah, they're definitely going this track because it's too juicy an angle to give up, I think. That he's going to come back somewhere.
Yeah, and exactly. And Honestly, I think that Monday morning, he after Homelander left, he was like, okay, I'm getting out of here. We'll see him we'll see him next season, and he's going to show up with the boys. Like, yeah, well, he's going to show up as Bully Butcher, and he's going to like, yeah, I'm
right.
And then she's going to, no, actually, I'm Doppelganger. I can be anyone I want to be, but the fact of the matter is that I'm on the run because Homelander is dangerous. I can move my spinal column around as I need to, but the fact of the matter is, I can turn, because that's the thing. He could probably turn his spinal column into cartilage, so that it can stretch as he needs to. He puts all that bulk, or as they say, he can move the medulla oblongata down into the chest if he had to. He can swallow that while he's changing because he's a shapeshifter. And so the fact that he survived, so that's my thing. I think Doppelganger survived. He'll come back. So my big predictions for season 3 are the Deep as ruler of Atlantis, now possibly in Lake Michigan, because I just came up with that just now. Doppelganger comes back, and because Doppelganger, he's the Doppelganger. He's an agent of Vought, and probably freaking what's his name? Mr. Edgar is going to bring him back. And Mr. Edgar, oh man, we love Mr. Edgar. He is the best He is the one super villain that you're like, you know what? I like him as a supervillain. He is like Lex Luthor times 10.
Can we get an origin story for Stan Edgar, please?
I really hope we get that season 3, man. I mean, I think they intentionally are keeping it quiet because you know what? You'll get it when they'll tell that story when they're ready to tell that story.
Yeah.
You can want all you want, but you'll get it when they're ready. It was delightful. Stan Edgar, what's his name? Giancarlo, I believe is the
Esposito.
The Giancarlo Esposito?
Yep.
How does a man have 2 last names? It's a great name. He's a great actor.
Powerful name.
He is in this. He is in freaking The Mandalorian. He is everywhere.
Of course, as his most famous character, Gus Fring on Breaking Bad.
Oh yeah, he is great. And this is one thing I'm going to say. He is so different in all 3 of these roles.
There's a lot of Gus Fring in him in this, though.
Really? Oh, okay, okay, possibly. I mean, I guess I can see that. I really do feel that there is a subtle but important difference between all 3.
Oh, for sure. But in that sense that he's always supremely in control of his surroundings at all times. He's meticulous, he's careful, and he's plotting 35 million steps ahead of you. In that respect, he's very much like Gus Fring. And very stoic.
Yes. The stoicism is definitely his selling point.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have been very... Edgar. Yeah, I am waiting for the Edgar origin. I would be shocked if Edgar's origin is he's just a dude. And that would be like the ultimate what about this universe? It's like, no, he got lucky, he met the right people, he landed on free parking.
No, but it's not necessarily lucky, but he did all the things right. Occasionally, just by happenstance, just by the merit of chance, somebody eventually has got to hit all the, like the Plinko thing that goes down. One of them has got to hit all the right little bumpers and fall down into the $1 million. Like, he's just the guy that did all the things right. He was always careful.
See, but that's the thing. That's not doing everything right. That's being lucky. That is saying just the right thing at just the right time. That opens up just the right door.
Yeah, but do you not share in any pride or any validation?
You can. No, you certainly can. But here's the thing. So this is the thing I always like to say. When I was in high school, I had a moment where I said a joke. in my Quiz Bowl practice that then got repeated to someone else in drama club. And because of that, I met someone who changed my life trajectory in high school. That had I not met that person, I would have done very different things. Because that was my intention. And because I met that person, I made other choices that opened up other things that made me do other things after that. And so it was a random gag. It was a random joke that I said that changed my life. And I really feel that all of our lives are these random jokes we say, these random things that someone responds to, and then you make your choices, and then you make your choices of that new situation.
No, but that's how most people live their lives. But there's some people who are careful and meticulously planned, and to get to a position of power like Stan Edgar is, you don't get there by luck. You don't just get there by luck. You have to be
No. Well, that's the thing. It's like, to say it's luck isn't to say he didn't work as well. It's to say that all that hard work means nothing without luck. And that's the thing. It's
yeah, like, but if one side is true, the relativistically reverse side of it is it also true that you can, have all the luck, but if you don't make the right choices at the right time, the luck isn't going to help you either.
Well, of course.
Right.
It's a balance between the two.
Right, I understand that. But
what I will say
that another person that didn't try as hard as him, even with all this luck, wouldn't have gotten this far. So it's it would be almost better if he wasn't a supervillain, that he was just a human that did all the, he was the best of us in one sense, in his effectiveness, in his efficiency. He was the best. It would be like Batman not being a superhero, but being a superhero.
Except that Batman was born rich, and that was really lucky of Batman.
Yeah,
and that I would say is the counter narrative, which is that, because here's the thing, as we've said, I'm not Barron Trump. Barron Trump will never work a day in his life, no matter what happens, politically or fiscally. Barron Trump is taken care of. That's Donald Trump's youngest son. So Barron Trump is okay. At least I like to believe that. I mean, honestly, he could wind up like King Louis's son, and that's kind of sad. But I don't think we're going down that path. It's a whole other set of paths that kind of subvert democracy. I think we're staying on that democratic path right now. Fingers crossed, no guillotines. But as I say, it's like the guillotines aren't for us. That's for your protection. Understand that whole stuff. That's if democracy fails. If you subvert democracy, that's what happens, not what you think's going to happen. So anyway, but long story short, at a certain point, there is this. So to bring it back to this show, what made someone choose Starlight? What made someone choose A-Train? What made someone choose the Deep? That this is the kid that's going to get injected with the Compound V. And there are probably a million things that all had to fall in just the right place. Just like, as they say, all the million things that had to fall in place for your dad's sperm to meet your mom's egg at just the right moment. And that is the luck of it. So I don't doubt that Stan Edgar is a guy who has worked his butt off his whole life. But just working your butt off doesn't guarantee success. As, I am definitely the epitome of the guy who, I am definitely Kramer. I fall bass backwards into what I get, and I've actually done pretty good in my life because, if nothing else, I'm charming. And my charmingness has gotten me through. My wife worked hard her whole life. She was a straight-A student. She does great work at what she does. She's meticulous and intelligent. But the fact of the matter is that, historically in our marriage, that me as the dropout has made more money than her. Because at the end of the day, I am lucky and I am charismatic. And not to say that she's not lucky or charismatic, but she is dedicated and focused on what she wants to do. And she accomplishes what she wants to do. And in order to be, I think, that fiscally successful, you got to be super flexible on what the heck you're going to do. You got to be willing to lie and cheat and steal and say, yeah, totally, I can do that. So whether or not Stan Edgar is like a Harvard grad or just a guy who like showed up one day and said, yep, I can do that. Yep, I can do that. Yep, I can do that. And then bluffed his way into the position.
Yeah, but you don't get asked to do the second thing if you don't perform on the first one.
Well, yeah, but then again, a lot of times people don't think about how difficult the first thing is when they ask you to do it.
Right.
And sometimes people get...
But hey, if you do accomplish it, man, you were worth the time.
Mm-hmm. And really, and it's sort of one of these things where it's like maybe anyone could have done it, but I was the one who got asked to do it.
Right.
I was the one that showed up at the time.
Right, but if you weren't able to perform, somebody could have asked somebody else to do it that didn't do it well, and they would have lost out on the opportunity. And that same opportunity, that same luck wouldn't have meant the same for them. Now, we can talk about the luckiness of the sperm meeting the egg, but our responsibility and the barrier at which we can start to be judged can only exist in that realm that we have control in. So that luck and all that is available to everybody. It's this free-flowing energy that's everywhere, and some people tap into it or not. And some people tap into it and make it work. Some people tap into it and don't make it work. The only point that we can be judged for is the part that we have control over. And I think that's the only part we can take pride in. And from that perspective, I don't think you can take anything away from Stan Edgar. And to say that, many people could have done what he did, I don't think there are very many people that would have made the same, that would have squeezed all the juice out of the luck given to them. I think if 95% of people would have been given the same luck that Stan Edgar has, I don't think they would have been able to squeeze out of that luck what he has.
Oh, no, absolutely 100% true. But within that structure, you have to acknowledge that Homelander really lucked out.
Right.
Because I don't think Homelander...
And that's why he doesn't deserve the same kind of praise as Stan Edgar does.
Exactly.
Which is why it would make it more cool if he was just a human.
Well, exactly. Yeah, I mean, honestly, the idea of Stan Edgar just being that much far ahead, like I said, I am waiting for someone to show up with Compound W. I really want, and I just call it, yes, I know that's the word cream, but that makes it all the funnier. I want Stan Edgar to have as his central thing, I need kryptonite.
Right.
I need someone to take this away. And here's the thing, we have not seen the super intelligent superhero yet.
Ooh.
I want there to be a super intelligent superhero who said, oh, yeah, no, you just have to reverse it doing this, and this. And, Now,
that's fascinating.
I hope that the poor super intelligent superhero didn't get it used on them. But, I want that to be a reality. I want there to be, and for all we know, that is Stan Edgar if we want to go that line. He got the. It's like, oh, no superpowers at all. But it's actually, no, I've got all the superpowers. I've got superpowers that you can't even conceive of.
Right.
And,
he's got the most easy to hide superpower.
Well, exactly. That's what I always say about, well, it's easier to hide if you don't make a big deal about it.
Right.
That's what I always used to say about, there's a character by the name of Protocide in Marvel Comics. And he's like the guy who got the super soldier serum before Steve Rogers got it, because this guy who really didn't like Steve Rogers to be the first person to get it, gave it to this basically this big dumb guy, and he gave it to this big dumb guy, and the big dumb guy has a heart attack because it's too much stress on him. But then years later, AIM resurrects him, and there's this thing where everyone says, "Oh, he must be brain damaged because he never speaks." But I always thought, the whole thing about Captain America is that the super soldier serum also gives him peak intelligence. And the reality is that for a guy like Steve Rogers, who was very intelligent from the start, he probably doesn't even notice that he's smarter. He probably doesn't even notice that he's thinking deeper thoughts and seeing angles that he didn't see before. But a guy who was dumb, who was just a big dumb guy, and then all of a sudden he like opens his eyes and he's seeing angles and words and things that he never thought of before, that's going to be shocking to him. He was always strong. He was always a big guy. So being stronger now doesn't really affect him. He's like, yeah, I could always punch a guy and knock him out. I was a big, strong guy. That was my thing. But now I'm a smart guy, and and I probably doesn't even have the words to even express what he wants to say. But he's seeing everything, and he's being quiet. And so I always think of that, that idea of that person, about people not seeing that super intelligence. Because that's the real mark of intelligence, is you don't tell everyone how smart you are. There's a lot of super villains and other people who really, I want you to know how smart I am. And the smartest guys like, yep, nope, that's fine. And so, yeah, Stan Edgar is the smartest guy in the room, either because he just was born the smartest like Lex Luthor, or he got a little juice, and that juice made him the smartest guy in the room, and just no one realized that he was the smartest guy in the room. That's fine too, And again, along those lines, it becomes into that idea about it's luck, but it's also that intelligence to use that luck. So when Stan Edgar gets the Compound V, everyone says, well, it had absolutely no effect on him. That he could play into that and ingratiate himself and say, oh, well, I guess I'm the control group. I don't have the effect. Now we know whatever it is that I have, that tells you that has no effect. And then could, certainly manipulate the people who were clearly Nazis to say, oh, well, clearly it's not going to work on people of the lesser race. There's all sorts of ways that it could play out if that's what happened. But that's what's going to be great about season 3. I'm looking forward to it, Mozz.
Indeed.
How about you?
Oh, I can't wait.
Any final thoughts on tonight's episode?
No, I think we got into it pretty good.
We got into it really good. This has been a very long couple of episodes. Sorry, folks, but we've had a lot of fun talking about it. If you have had trouble listening to it, though, I suggest you go over to tweakedaudio.com. That's tweakedaudio.com. Use the coupon code Southgate to get a discount on high-quality audio equipment to listen to our shows better. Likewise, you can use that exact same coupon code over at huntakiller.com to get essentially an escape room delivered to your house every week, which would be awesome, I think. And then if none of that even interests you, go down to our show notes, click on the Amazon link, go to Amazon.com, buy whatever you want, costs you nothing, helps us out, but also allows you to buy Podlife, the book written by Southgate Media Group personnel who love podcasting and want to tell you about it. So if you like podcasting or interested in podcasting, want to know what the heck podcasting is, please pick up Podlife, the book. Mozz, how can people reach out to you and talk to you about Podlife, the book, or anything else they have an interest in?
Oh, they can email me at mozzmanzor@gmail.com or find me on Facebook under Mozz Manzor. That's MOZZMANZOOR.
And, of course, you can always write to me in that old-fashioned email way the way our moms and pa's once did at superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. That's superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. And, of course, follow me on the Twitter as I live tweet, hopefully, if I understood everything they've said to me correctly, Darkwing Duck on Disney XD on Mondays at 7 at Charlie Esser. That's CHARLIESSER. Look for the 2 E's in the middle. For what?
For quality. Bing!
Thank you, Mozz. All right, me hearties, it's been another amazing week here at Full Stream Ahead. You've endured the sailing trip, and I hope you have a great week until we come back again and go full stream ahead. Arc.